Yeah.
Shield, lance, sword, bayonet, rifle, pistol, musket, cannon, mortars, big boys' toys, all on display in the White Tower. But in there, gentlemen, you're going to feel woefully inadequate at a very personal level. Check out Henry VIII's armour. You'll know what I mean when you see it. But I consider it a duty to warn you that those countries are an early foray into psychological warfare. I suspect that you're all civilians. Are you a civilian? You're wearing a Navy SEALs t-shirt. Do you wish to be a Navy SEAL? I don't expect any of you to know anything about psychological warfare, so I'm now going to give you a quick lesson. Listen in, this is important for a Navy SEAL. Do you all see my head?
Yeah.
Yes.
I'm sorry, I'm a bit deaf. Do you all see my head?
Yes.
Do you all see the hat?
Yes.
Psychological. My head doesn't go to the top. But it is your natural assumption that it does. In your fragile little minds, I am now taller and arguably more fierce than I really am. Check this out. Now the White Tower over there, everything that we've seen and talked about prior to this was designed purely to defend that. Now this was built on the orders of William the Bastard, who by the year 1078 felt safe enough to begin work on this his principal palace and fortress here in London. And it was in 1078 that we have the first reference to him as William the Conqueror. His spin doctors had given him a new name. Worked up 20 years, nearly 500 years, kings and queens lived on the top floor. The floor below was accommodation for their most favoured knights and their ladies. And the lowest floor with windows, that's where the kitchens were. There is another floor, partly below ground. Walls there, 15 feet thick, no windows, dark, close to the river, always damp and cold. Perfect place for the wine! It's a wine cellar. I have told you twice that this is not built as a prison. I like the idea of putting children in there though, that was good. Our first prisoner, turns out, was a Frenchman. His name was Ranulph de Flambard, and he was the Bishop of Durham. Now, it would be complete lunacy to imprison a French bishop, or any bishop, in a wine cellar. So he was imprisoned in the top of the southwest turret. The year was 1100. By 1101 he noticed that the others liked to drink, so he threw them a party. He had wine brought up from the cellar in casks, which he noticed were bound round with rope. Warders did what they knew best. Drank too much, ate too much, fell asleep. Ranulph de Flambard saw his moment and seized it. He removed the rope from these casks, and this ancient French bishop abseiled 90 odd feet on an improvised line and got away. Our first prisoner escaped. Have we learned from this? No. In the Tower's long history, we had 3,500 prisoners. 81 of them escaped, an escape ratio of 1 in 42. Get with it, come on. Statistically, the Tower of London is You are quite right, but it was not until the turn of the 16th century that the wine rack was put to one side and another rack was installed. This rack had a very sinister purpose: torture. But torture is misunderstood. It's not a bad rack. Many people think of torture as a punishment. It isn't. It just feels that way. Torture is a way to keep a conversation going. It is a tool of interrogation. The most famous interrogation that took place here was that of Guy Fawkes, the only man to have entered Parliament with honest, noble intentions, clear agenda, that resulted in seeing something that you won't find in Parliament. He was going and angles to two spindles, setting the rack, finding the traction mechanism in the middle, spindles turned in opposite directions, so he began to stretch. Now an osteopath would charge you a fortune for this. On our rack you could stretch a man nearly 4 inches. At the 3-inch point, any therapeutic value was lost. Joints would get pulled apart. Now your joints are held together with ligament and tendon. It might be a shock for you to learn that ligament and tendon are stronger than bone. When your joints get pulled apart, it is your bones that break. Not cleanly, they come away in a large flake fracture. It covers a lot of surface area and nerve endings. Pain! Lots of pain! That's what we're talking about here. They all cracked on the rack. Some say Guy Fawkes did, but he did sign a confession. Good as a death warrant. Taken from here to Westminster Palace Yard. Commoner, guilty of treason, like William Wallace, hanged, drawn, and he didn't suffer though. Guy Fawkes' racket was so brutal, but as he made his way up the gallows steps, he collapsed and died. They carried on anyway. That remains a place. My employers insist I tell you that shopping in our gift shop is a happy and pleasant experience. I'm not allowed to tell you. Then here in the corner we have the Queen's Sash, and this was built as a wedding present for Anne Boleyn. The work began on that in 1533, the year of the wedding, completed in 1541, 5 years after her execution. This is now the home of the Constable of the Tower of London and his family. It is being guarded today by soldiers, and I do mean soldiers, of the Coldstream Guards. Their famous red tunics and bearskin hats. Their heads don't go to the top either. This is a ceremonial room. Be advised that some of these young men have recently returned from Operation Beefeater. The weapon you see is live. It's the British assault rifle with bayonet. Do not upset the soldiers! Got that? Yeah. They do deserve your respect. Anyone with a rifle and bayonet deserves your respect. Especially if you don't have one. This is Tower Green. It's colour-coded. It's grass. I have to explain this because a lot of people spend an hour or so looking for a green tower. These people are Europeans. Europeans are lovely people, but they do have syntax problems and talk like Yoda. So, Tower Green. Grass. Hopefully that's cleared that up for you, Europe. You can visit the beefeater tower. That arched window up there lets light into a chamber, the walls of which are covered with graffiti. And some of that graffiti is nearly 500 years old. Graffiti is not a new problem. Modern art is a new problem. This monstrosity, not you. Perspex granite tubular steel is a monument to traitors and mutineers and should not exist. Such scum deserve no monuments. This is the site of the private execution scaffold, and it was here that Henry VIII, quite rightly, had 2 of his wives executed. Many husbands bring their wives back to admire the spot. Now the first of these was Queen Anne Boleyn. She was Henry VIII's second wife. His first wife was Catherine of Aragon, a beautiful Spaniard, and they were happily married for 17 years. Actually married for 23 years. The last 6 years were blighted by the fact that she could not produce a son. She'd given him a daughter, but that wasn't good enough. It really is. What? So he divorced her, married Anne Boleyn. Like Catherine, she gave him a daughter, could not give him a son. Extra points, she tried really hard. Henry. I don't care what your romantic, sentimental attachment might be to the myth of Anne Boleyn. I don't want to know if you were Anne Boleyn in some previous incarnation. On average, I'll meet 3 of you a year. You can't all be right. You're not special. You're sick. Delusional. Okay. Anne Boleyn could not be admired, emulated in any way. She was found guilty of adultery with 7 men, including her brother. Now, when you're married to the king, that's treason, then I don't care who you're married to. It's excessive and weird. Not for her, the fucking act. She asked about French fashion. On the 19th of May, 1536, she knelt there praying for forgiveness. And as she prayed, the Frenchman took off her head with one stroke of a sword. No, she was dead. The public record tells us that when her severed head was lifted from the straw, the select audience gasped in amazement and horror because her eyes continued to gaze around at the faces of the crowd for quite some time, whilst the neck dripped blood and her lips continued to move. But isn't that just like a woman? Last word, last word. Now, she was so convinced she was going to get a reprieve that no arrangement had been made for a funeral when there was no coffin. So Anne Boleyn, the Queen of England, and obviously quite a bit shorter now, had to be stuffed into a humble arrow box. The arrow box lies inside the chapel. Now, the chapel remains a place of Christian worship. So when we go in there, switch it off. If it goes off inside the chapel, God strikes you down dead! Maybe not dead. For reasons of crowd copyright, there can be no photography or video recording inside the chapel, but for those of you making a video,